Stuart, I have a question.
Let me make it a little lower.
Okay,
1 second. Okay.
would you please talk about psychic phenomena that occur during meditation?
The psychic phenomena. Well, yeah. I mean, look, Pat, we're opening in this class to a completely other dimension of energy. We're opening to the cosmos. We're opening to that which goes beyond time and space. And in the process of taking journeys to these psychic places, there's going to be psychic phenomena. I mean, things of mystical nature, of another worldly nature, are going to take place. But that's the point of the meditation. It's to open inside so we can connect on a transcendental level. And ultimately, by doing it and building a chakra system, we get to a place where we can go outside of time and space. And outside of time and space is infinite energy in the universe. Every conceivable Tibetan tanka that's ever been painted. I mean, it's really true. And we do that in this meditation. We go to that level in order to get energy so that we can work out our karma. There has to be a reason why we were born in this place, and that's to work out our karma. How do you work out your karma? As I've said a million times, it's truly learning how to live, with an open heart, with love, with compassion. But in order to live this way, you have to build, you know, a very deep inner strength. And where do you get the energy from doing it? It's on a transcendental plane, which the meditation is designed to open us so we can get to that plane of consciousness. Kundalini rising from the base of the spine, gathering in the crown chakra, germinating, and then 1,000-petal lotus opens the crown chakra, and the soul of the human being connects with the soul of the universe. There's going to be a great deal of psychic phenomena in doing this. Which is not so bad. It's certainly a lot more interesting than the mundane stuff that goes on the earth. The stuff we have to deal with every day. Does anyone else have a question?
thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome. The whole point of all of this is to become spiritually enlightened. It's to become one with God. Now you ask the question, what is God? Infinite energy in the universe. And define infinite energy. It's mean energy without limitation. We as human beings are incapable of visualizing that kind of energy. Yet we have to connect it in order to get the nurturing inside to free ourselves of karma. So the soul can evolve to a higher plane of consciousness. Does anyone else have a question? It's kind of cool to do this. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to write poetry about it, you know? And I wonder what happened to those poems. I really wrote some really long poems about this psychic phenomenon. No idea what happened.
Hmm.
Does anyone else have a question they would like to? Just so that you'll all know, my book, I think, is pretty much finished. I'm doing a read through now to edit. You know, you could publish a book 10 years later, read through it and edit. You know, it's always something. But I'm trying to get it at least into the best condition I can get it into. Does anyone else have a question? And these questions made it possible for me to write this book. And I'm very grateful to all of you, you know, Pat, Bob, and other people who, you know, hit me with a lot of questions.
Stuart,
I
I
have a
have a
question.
question. This is Tom.
Who's going to go first? I let Tom go, Bob.
Hi. Um, does the shape of a shepherd's crook have a meaning in our tradition?
Does a who?
Does the shape of a shepherd's crook have a meaning in our tradition?
The shape of a shepherd's crook?
Like the staff that a shepherd carries. Does that have a meaning? The shape of that, does that have a meaning in our tradition?
I don't know. And look, I used to have a painting, a wonderful painting, Japanese painting of a staff, a shepherd's. And there was, you know, inscriptions, calligraphy. Those who were on the path get hit with the staff. Those who were not on the path get hit with the staff. You know, and it always reminded me of what Rudy taught me, you know. You either suffer consciously or you suffer like a schmuck. So maybe that's shepherd's staff is a reminder of this. I don't know, Tom. I have no idea. You've stumped me here. The only reference I can have is what I just said. You know, I mean, I can think about it, but if I want to, and probably come up with some symbology and metaphor for what it is, but I really don't know. Is that something from the Bible?
Um, from dreams, from formations in my chakra system, just bits and pieces. I don't want to make a head trip out of it, but um, that's why I asked if you had a reference there.
No, I really don't, other than that painting. And if you want to know where that painting is, you can knock on Richard Gere's door. He bought it from me. That's where that painting is today. But I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there's, you know, like thousands of things in the Bible, the Old and the New Testament that are metaphors for spiritual practice. You know, there are a lot of shepherds in those books, and there might be metaphors in that. I don't know, Tom. I really haven't an answer.
Do you sometimes have formations that occur in your chakra system that tell you about the level that you're working for or something like that?
I have openings, Tom. Heart opens. I have visions, you know, in the crown chakra. I have visions in the cosmos, you know. And but again, I just open and what my job is to turn it all into energy. I don't want to even understand what goes on in the cosmos because you know who's capable. But if I transform it into energy that really continues to build my chakra system, then all of those symbols, those images are doing their job. Their meanings, I mean, you take 1,000 people and ask every one of them, you're going to get a different meaning, you know? But, they have energy. You have visions of gods and demigods and all kinds of auto creatures, and it's energy. And instead of sitting around and just gazing at it and trying to figure out what the hell they are, I just take in the energy and let it help me to grow in my life. And I find that, to me, that is more important than understanding what these things are all about. Because I'm telling you, I can have 100 people here and give them some image, cosmic image, you're going to get 100 different interpretations. But, if you absorb the energy, take it in and let it open the chakras and develop, it means you will go to another level in your life.
Yes.
But I'm not a theologian, I really am not. I don't really cotton to dogma and religion and all that stuff in religion. And but I do totally understand that there's energy in the cosmos that we all need if we're going to grow and have a spiritual life. And that all of these different manifestations are just opportunities to receive the teachings of God, the energy of God, and let it work on us and help us to grow in our lives. To me, that's more important than understanding these things. When I was a kid, I understood a lot. I also went crazy understanding all that stuff. I was a very unhappy kid, but I understood a lot. I could talk to you about philosophy and theology and Buddhism and Hinduism. And, I read all these books when I was younger. But none of them got me one step closer to a spiritual life. It was Rudy and this double breathing exercise that opened up the doorway to God for me. And then I didn't have to understand anything. And that was really a big load off. Not to have to use my mind to figure out what cosmic stuff is all about. I don't know. But Rudy wasn't a theologian either. He used to say it all the time. I'm not a theologian. Go talk to somebody who's a theologian about these things.
What about a second cycle of energy that you've talked about? What about that?
What about it?
Um, isn't it important to know to bring the energy up your spine and then bring it around to your heart?
That's nothing but knowing the craft of meditation, Tom. You have to know the craft. And that's the craft of meditation, the cycle of energy through you. But it's not, an intellectual and rational understanding of what it means. It's just something to do because it's the craft of your inner work. And meditation, frankly, it's a craft. That's all it is. It's a craft. Look, you're a carpenter, Tom. You have a craft. Without the craft, you never know how to build a house. And meditation is a craft. And anyone who applies themselves to doing it can learn that craft and evolve spiritually. Part of the craft is the second cycle of energy, third cycle of energy. And what it all means, it means getting closer to your spiritual enlightenment. That's what it all means. The wonderful thing about it is anyone can do it. You don't need 195 IQ. You just have to have a need to get to God. And you will learn the craft of inner work. I think I even wrote about that in my book, not needing 195 IQ to learn the craft of meditating. Just have to practice. You know, it's like learning to play a musical instrument. You got to practice it. You develop the craft, and then you are a vehicle for divine inspiration that produces symphonies and concerts and jazz and whatever, dance. But you got the craft. This is a craft. And there are two people sitting here now that are the energy is gonna flow through exactly the same way. Everybody's unique. And that's all we do here. It's learning the craft so that that inspiration, that divine presence, we are open inside and we can receive that divine presence. And then it can become, we can really use it in the world to work out karma. And how do you work out karma? An open heart, love, compassion is how you live your life. I think it's pretty cool. It really simplifies all of this stuff. Not terribly complicated. People make it complicated, but it's not. There are 7 cycles of energy. And when your energy flows through the 7, you are an enlightened being. You're one with higher, and there's nothing left of you except God. Does anyone else have a question? Oh, Bob, you had a question.
I forgot my question.
You have another question?
No.
No, I said Bob had a question.
This is Jennifer. I have a question. Is it important?
Yes.
Is it important to know which cycle you're on out of those 7 cycles?
Is it important to know? I can say yes and I can say no, Jenny.
Okay.
When you reach that second cycle, third cycle, you will know it. You will be living it. It's not something you're going to know in your brain. You become a living expression of whatever cycle of energy is flowing through your system. So you don't really know, but you live it. And spiritual life is not knowing, it is living. It's living it. A great dancer lives it. You understand? The music comes and it just becomes a living expression of their connection with inspiration, with higher energy. And it's the same thing with working out karma. It becomes a living expression. So you don't know it in your head, but you live it. I mean, a lot of great artists, you know, they look at canvas they paint and they can't believe they painted it. You know? You know, I did that. It's extraordinary. My God. Same thing with composers and musicians and artists. And so the whole secret is becoming less. Less is more. The less there is of us to interfere with divine energy, the more of it will flow through us and allow us to live an inspired life. Does anyone else have a question? Bob, you had a question?
I'm going to save the question for another day.
Does anyone else have a question? Okay, well, thank you. God bless you all. And there'll be class on Wednesday. There's also the daytime classes, and if you want to attend them, just let me know. I'll put your name on my mailing list. And thank you. God bless you all. Thank you for dragging this all out of me. I am listening also, you know. I come here to learn. So God bless you all, and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you so much, Stuart.
Thank you, sir.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.